I'd like to call June 4th, 2013 City Council meeting to order, and we're going to include the Housing Authority in this as we open this meeting. And so I'd like to call it to order, and that's me. Roll call for standby where we have technical difficulties.
This is not
Testing. I'm on. Okay. Yours, Captain.
I've been telling you this thing is broken. Y'all just don't pay me any attention. Now you're going to believe me. It's broke. Look at there. Everybody's ears going to be messed up.
It's Miss Kathy McCullough.
Turn yours on. See what we get. See? Y'all heard me say it every week. What's the case? From the light to the mic. I think they're doing that deliberately. I'm not going to shut up.
So I'd like to call roll call, please.
Councilmember Herzog. Here. Councilmember Nick. Here. Councilmember Robinson. Mayor Pro Tem McCullough.
Present.
Mayor Voights.
Here. All right. Well, at this time, I'd like to open with invocation with Mayor Pro Tem Kathy McCullough.
Is it fixed? Just turn it this way. That's okay. I can talk loud. Thank you. For you that choose, you may bow your heads. You do not. You don't have to. I thank you that we're able to gather here today, and I ask that you give us the wisdom and the knowledge to make the decisions for our city that our citizens has entrusted us to make, and we individually, the one that we ask to guide us through the different things that we need for this city. Give us the wisdom, the knowledge, and the integrity. Let it bring forth where all the citizens can see that we're sitting here to do their business. We thank you for this opportunity, and may we all be able to come in unity. And P.S., please fix the mics. Thank you.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Councilmember Adam Nick.
Please rise. Ready? Begin. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. City Attorney, do we have anything to report from closed session, either the Housing or the City Council?
Mayor, there was no reportable action from the meeting tonight in closed session. However, at a previous closed session, the City Council took action that has since become final. And so tonight we need to announce that the City Council gave the City Attorney and the City Manager direction to enter into a memorandum of understanding by and between test claimant permittees regarding sharing costs for the common tasks associated with the prosecution and defense of unfunded state mandates claim. There are several co-permittees in the county that have been tasked with implementing unfunded state mandates to to comply with the edicts of the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board and the San Diego Regional Water Quality Control Board, and this action authorizes us to seek state reimbursement of those mandates.
Thank you. That brings us to the report from the student liaison. Jen, are you here? Okay, come. Our favorite high school, Del Toro Chargers.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the school year is coming to a close, we Chargers are continuing to work hard and are preparing for one final push to get through our final exams in the coming weeks. Last week was our annual Staff Appreciation Week. Throughout the week, teachers and staff alike enjoyed an all-day free car wash, breakfast, lunch, and even some hand-delivered candies with uplifting quotes attached to brighten their days. This past Saturday was our fantastic and highly anticipated 007 prom at the Grove in Anaheim. It was a night full of delicious desserts, wild swing dancing, and nothing but fun. The 2013 prom royalty was announced as well. This year's prom king and queen are Josh Santos and Christina Meyering. This event was a huge success. As tonight will be my last City Council meeting as student liaison, I would like to thank you all for providing me with this excellent opportunity to both practice my public speaking skills and experience and observe our local government firsthand. With that, I would like to introduce our 2013-2014 school year student liaison, Jeff Dominic. Jeff is a 3-year varsity soccer player and team captain, is involved in multiple clubs such as A Way to Help, Safe Rides, and Invisible Children, and is widely respected as a great leader on campus. That's all for tonight, and as always, go Chargers.
And we'd like to have you stay right there because we as a City Council so much appreciate your updates and your enthusiasm for the Lake Forest and the El Toro Chargers. And so if you could just wait 1 minute there for me, please. Come on over here. We'll show you a little bit of appreciation from us as a City Council. We'd like to say thank you for keeping us so well informed on one of the best high schools in all of Orange County. So thank you so much. And on behalf of the city here, we have a very special thing that we only give out at special occasions. It's the El Toro plaque with your name on the bottom. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much.
So I'd like to get a picture. Let's come over here. Come on. Right here. People, and we'll get the council. Yeah. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Hold on. And from us as a city, here's a special gift for you. Now, you gotta open it.
Oh, here we go. There it is. Woo. Oh, sweet. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all. Okay.
What's your plan? What are you going to major in?
Well, I'm going to IBC for 2 years, and then hopefully after that, I'm going to study abroad for a bit in Italy. And then after that, who knows, maybe go to Seattle University, hopefully, and major in geology. So, yeah, I would like to be a geologist.
All right. Well, much success to you. And if your dedication to our city and your school is anything that will give us an inclination of your success. You're going to have a very successful life. So all of God's best.
Oh, thank you so much. So nice.
Well, go Chargers. That brings us to public comments. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within subject matter of the City Council. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person and an overall time limit of 30 minutes for the public comment portion of the agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on this agenda, is requested to complete a request speaker form available by the door, and complete it and submit it to our city clerk, or Deborah Rose over here in the pink jacket. And whenever possible, lengthy testimony should be presented to the City Council in writing. A request to register written comments form is available at the agenda public review counter. Madam Clerk, do we have any requests to speak?
Mary Axelrod, followed by Jim Gardner.
Good evening, and I just want to start off first by saying I don't mean any disrespect to anybody, but I do want to go on record. No person shall be elected to the office of president for more than 2 years. What I just read is the 22nd Amendment of the Constitution of the United States of America, and it was passed in Congress in 1947. Though this doesn't apply to City Council, that's not really my point. My point is that there are term limits, and term limits aren't un-American. Otherwise, it wouldn't be an amendment in the U.S. Constitution and apply to the highest office that a person can hold in America. As far as we have term limits, they're called elections go, well, yeah, we have a choice to vote for whoever we want. Anyone can do that. However, it is well known to everybody that most people don't research candidates, and that's just reality, and that's just the way it is. It's human nature. Well, what they will do is they'll recognize a name, and they'll say, oh, this name has been on the ballot, or they recognize a name from years and decades of it being passed around, and that's who they'll vote for, and that's just human nature, too. So as far as having experience in office, too, for years, that doesn't entitle a person to continue in an office for life just because they have experience doing so. Y'all started at the bottom rung. You didn't come into the office with all this knowledge. Somebody had to teach you, and somebody will teach the next person. I've been a nurse for 30 years, and I knew some things, but as the years went by and progressed, I was taught, and I have a better knowledge now than I did then. That's not to say a person who's a new grad isn't good. They have potential, but they just have to be taught. And I think it's the same thing here as well. They just have to be taught. I think term limits ensures tax-paying citizens like myself and other people, too, that you're getting representation and not career politicians who are out of touch, because things do change. And that's all I have to say, and thank you very much.
Jim Gardner, followed by Scott Dradken.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. My name is Jim Gardner. I live in Lake Forest. I had intended to come tonight and to talk about crime, and I brought with me an article from the Patch, and you may have it in front of you. I know some of you don't read my columns in the Patch, so I brought it with me, and I was going to go through the headlines and read them. going to discuss the fact that we have the highest DUI arrests of any of our neighbors, and yet we're approving to put extra alcohol selling places in the city. I was going to mention that we have a city council member was convicted of a DUI. What kind of a message does that send to people about crime? I was going to go my whole 3 minutes just on the crime thing. Instead, I went to the website and I saw the new police pages on the website. So I wanted to switch gears now and talk about that. But you've got those copies in front of you. I see it's been updated, and kudos to whoever was responsible for that. That's really good. The website is important because the website is the public face of the city. There's a dozen people here. People don't see this, but they do see the website. So the website's really important. And I liked a lot of the updates I saw there. There are still some problems. There's a link that doesn't work. There's outdated materials. Come to the event in 2010, come to the event in 2011. Well, you know, that needs to be straightened up. But the main improvements have got to do with, and I come here all the time. I say the same thing. I'm so bored saying it myself. I'm sure you must be bored hearing it from me. It's not so much the neighborhood watch. People don't care about a neighborhood watch. What they'd like to know is, can a neighborhood watch help me in my neighborhood for what kind of crimes? People don't care about crime statistics so much. What they want to know about is, do I need to worry about somebody breaking into my car in my neighborhood? Are the burglaries up in my neighborhood? That's the kind of information we want. Well, it's great. We have more information up there than we ever did before, and I applaud you for doing that, but I think it still could be tweaked and made even better. You might want to look at the San Juan Capistrano police website. I thought that was very good, and theirs could be improved. I don't live there, so I'm not going to go over there and hassle them. I live here, so I'm hassling you to make it better. In any event, I was very happy to see that, and keep up the good work in updating that page on the police. Public safety, obviously, is job number one for a city, and I commend whoever was responsible for updating the police services page. Thank you.
Thank you.
Scott Dradken, followed by Doug Cerbo.
Good evening, Mayor and Boyce and members of the council. My name is Scott Dradken, and I'm a 15-year resident of Lake Forest with 2 kids and a lovely wife. My family and I live in Serrano Park. I am also a land use planner by education and a local city planner by profession. I'm here tonight to express my support for a potential arena soccer park at the city-owned property just south of Dimension on Lake Forest Drive. I provided you a site aerial photo of the property and conceptual plan if you're not familiar with the location or the idea. The property is approximately 6.5 acres, and the flat portion of the property is approximately 3.5 acres. The conceptual design uses only the flat portion of the property. This benefits site development in 2 primary ways. It provides a 200 feet plus buffer between the uphill residential and the proposed developed portion of the site, and it saves money on grading and geotechnical mitigation. The plan includes 2 full-size pro arena soccer fields and 1 pee-wee soccer field. The pee-wee soccer field is great for the young kids, and the City of Orange and Garden Grove both have these pee-wee fields, and they are always plenty busy. On weekends, when not in use for play, these fields are also regularly rented out for kids' birthday parties. The site plan proposes a parking lot that includes 82 parking spaces. The parking provided at this site is about half the total parking that is provided at Heroes Park, and based on the land use, generally complies with typical parking demand for a proposed recreational facility of this size. Access is very good at this location because with the large frontage, approximately 400 plus feet, there are plenty of opportunities for ingress and egress. In addition, the site plan shows a large amount of impervious surfaces for landscaping and the provisions of water quality best management practices. The site drains generally to the street that is developed with adequate storm drain capacities. In general, the site is suited for this type of land use. I strongly believe that this use would be very good for this immediate area economic growth in the city in general. This area currently has a fair amount of retail that is usually just driven by too much by residents. A use like this would create more attraction to the adjacent retail, restaurants, auto repair, and even a hotel by the resident population and visiting users. I've spoken to several of the business owners, and they are all very supportive of the idea. The kids that play regular soccer all indicate that they enjoy arena soccer as much, if not more. And as anyone can tell you, at the AYSO registration day, most of our local youth do play soccer. The adult arena soccer leagues are also very, very popular. The closest current arena soccer field is in the south end of Mission Viejo, and the field is a converted basketball court. To date, I have, in conjunction with AYSO, run several short-term leagues and tournaments out of the YMCA Mission Viejo Arena, and they have always been very successful and popular. The last league had over 100 Lake Forest kids, and we did not have enough arena time to support the amount of kids that wanted to play. Unfortunately, some kids were turned away from the tournament this season. Moreover, this league was only advertised to current AYSO players, so it was a very small area of going out for advertisement. I've got 3 more lines to write and I'll be done.
Okay.
Most of the year, there are no available days for use of Mission Viejo Arena, and there's certainly a shortage of arena fields in this area considering the demand. Orange County now even has a pro indoor arena soccer team called the Anaheim Bolts, and they play at the Anaheim Convention Center. With AYSO Soccer, the many dozens of local club soccer teams in this area, and the adult arena leagues, there would be plenty of demand for this use. Thank you for listening to me, and I hope you support this idea and add it to the city's CIP.
Thank you.
Doug Cerbo, followed by James Matthews.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, staff. My name is Doug Cerbo. I'm the AYSO Regional Commissioner here in Lake Forest, Portola Hills, and Foothill Ranch, serving 1,700 kids that play in our program. By the way, next year we'll be celebrating, in conjunction with a sports park, kind of timely, our 40th chartered year as an AYSO region, and it's also AYSO National's 50th year. So we're looking forward to that celebration and really encouraged by the sports park. My input tonight is to echo what Scott was talking about and the variety of soccer play that our kids are looking for. And my job is all volunteer, 1,100 hours per year. They had me figured it out the other day. Is to serve the kids of this community and give them options and give them opportunities to engage in these type of competitive play games that they enjoy. And the arena soccer is different than the soccer we play during our normal season. And it gives the kids an opportunity to play a variety and actually work on some skills that they wouldn't otherwise obtain. So my input is just to lend an offer of support and encourage this kind of things to offer more kids to the community we have here. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Doug, for your involvement with AYSO and making it such a great thing for our youth here in Lake Forest. Thank you.
Yeah, sure, thanks.
James Matthews, followed by Gregory Ratz.
I might have a mic problem, too. Anyway, thank you. I'm an 18-year resident. My name's James Matthews, 18-year resident of Lake Forest, father of 3 boys. And I am also here to speak tonight to support the arena soccer complex, although I think I call it kind of a multi-sport arena complex opportunity. I'd like to commend the council and the past councils on the development of all the sport opportunities that we have here in Lake Forest. I mean, the sports park is going to be one of the premier additions to our city. And I think we have an opportunity here with a small piece of property to expand on that and continue the progress that we've made so far. I echo the sentiments of Doug and Scott. It's not only an opportunity for our kids and the 1,700 kids in AYSO, but the other 1,700 kids that are not represented by AYSO to partake in a bunch of different sports. Arenas are used all over Southern California for not only arena soccer, but also field hockey, a box lacrosse type program. So lacrosse is a very big program that's growing here, and box lacrosse could be used at this facility. A couple of stories that Scott didn't get a chance to talk about, but I think I coached one of the arena soccer programs that was put together by AYSO this last season, and it was really hard to turn away the 30 or 40 kids extra that we had over the 100 people that were signed up. And that was a difficult time to see those kids show up and say, "Can we get on a team? Can we get on a team?" No, we don't have enough facilities. There's only one field over in Mission Viejo, and by the way, those were all Lake Forest kids that were over in Mission Viejo using their facilities. So Scott and I also partake in an adult arena soccer league on Tuesdays and Wednesday nights. There's a mixed doubles league that also plays, and so I think there'd be a lot of opportunity to use this facility. And so I understand that requires funding, and the funds, we have limited funds available, but I think there might also be an opportunity through through looking at different opportunities to finance this through a public-private partnership. There are several facilities that have been built through that program, through a public-private partnership at other cities here in Orange County, in which they can fund the construction of the facility for a concession to operate the facilities. So thank you for your time and listening to this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Gregory Ratz.
Mayor, council members, my name is Gregory Ratz. I'm a resident of Mission Viejo, but I'm also a resident of the 45th Congressional District here in Orange County. I came to this area in 1978 as a young first lieutenant, and I was based here at El Toro flying the F-4 Phantom, and later flew the F-18 Hornet. I did 32 years in the Marine Corps and retired in 2004 as a colonel. I'm at the time of my life where I want to continue to serve my country, so I want to announce tonight to you that I'll be running for Congress for the 45th Congressional District. I'm going to be going against John Campbell, our current incumbent, and I also am a Republican. The only problem I have with John is he continuously votes against military appropriations, he continuously votes against military authorization bills, and he has not been a friend to the veterans. When a person, or a young man and woman joins the military, they put up their right hand and say, I sign in a check up to and including my life. And when they come back, we are now faced with over 2 years to get a claim through the VA if they have any type of disabilities. So that's going to be my main theme for my campaign. So I just want to let the council know, and on the 15th of June at a residence in Mission Viejo, I'll be announcing my candidacy. I'd like the council to join me. 3 other mayors will be there. Mayor of Mission Viejo, Mayor Reardon, Mayor Kogerman of Laguna Hills, and Mayor of Rancho Santa Margarita, and several council members. And I'd like you to come along. I'm not asking for an endorsement, but just to listen to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We've had no further requests.
Well, thank you for all your input. And that would bring us to the warrant registry, the consent calendar. And at this time, all matters listed on the consent calendar are considered routine and would be enacted by one vote. There will be no separation discussion on these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Madam Clerk, do we have anything from the public?
We've had no requests.
Council?
Move approval.
Ms. Kathy? Do you have anything? All in favor? Aye.
Both mics are dead now. This one, the back is dead.
That brings us to the consent calendar. And since Ms. Kathy can't be speaking tonight, our meeting will be shorter than ever. The consent calendar. All matters listed under the consent calendar are considered routine and enacted by one vote. There will be no separation discussion on these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from this consent calendar for separate action.
We've had no requests.
Council?
Move approval of the consent calendar.
All in favor? Aye. That brings us to discussion items.
Agenda.
Go ahead.
Agenda item 10, authorization to solicit requests for proposals for solid waste collection services submitted by the Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mr. Wheeler and our consultant in response to some of the questions that the council had at the last meeting, and then obviously answer any questions that the council may have. So, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So tonight we're going to talk again about trash, and this is really a follow-up from the May 21st meeting. There's a few things I'd like to just briefly summarize from our conversation last time, and then we'll have economics come up, answer all your questions, and go into further detail on a few items. But the main items, I think, of coming back to speak with council was about the two recycling coordinators. We have a presentation that economics will be giving in a moment. You've got a hard copy on your dais also to follow along. There is one spreadsheet on there that's really tough to see on there, so that's what we printed out for you. Just in review, we talked about the food scrap program. Really, there will be a commercial program for recycling in the commercial areas in accordance with AB 341. We're not planning a residential program in the near future. If and when that were ever to happen, we'd come back, we'd have to define that program. Again, if and when that were ever to happen, the food waste would go into the green waste bin that you already have instead of the trash can that you already have. So no additional trips, really pretty straightforward, but again, that would be in many years from now if we were to do that program. In terms of trash truck trips that we talked about, no new trips are anticipated. Again, the residential system will pretty much stay the way it is, so we'd still have the 3-bin system, no new trips. You might say, well, if we increase recycling, we'll have more trips in the recycling area. That would be true, but then we'd have a correspondingly decrease in trips for picking up the trash since you're recycling more. So we really think that will balance out. We wouldn't really have any new net trips in the trash truck arena. We talked about air quality requirements for trucks. That we just really require them to comply with state regulations. We're not adding anything new in terms of air quality. And then one thing that we were able to add, that staff was able to resolve in the interim, was an AB 939 fee. And really what that is just a way to recover the costs for economics ongoing contract. So we're hiring economics to help us with this transition time through monitoring of the new contract. That contract, there was a lot of debate about how we could recover those costs directly in a post-Prop 218 scenario. And as we were working through that, we were first direction or assumption was that had to come out of the 5% franchise fee, or we were safer for it to come out of the 5% franchise fee. But we continue to work on that with staff. We had 4 different attorneys involved. We had our consultant involved. We had city staff involved. So it took a while to figure out the language, and that language is included as attachment 3 to your staff report. But it's just a way of recovering the cost directly that would otherwise have to come out of the 5% franchise fee, which goes straight into our general fund. So it's a protection of the general fund, so the general fund isn't subsidizing our costs associated with recycling and implementing AB 939. So that language is in there. And then we have some additional questions and answers, which came up earlier today. That's included in your handout on your dais also. The council may or may not want to ask us about. So if I may, let me introduce William O'Toole and Trevor Blythe with Economics to walk us through that conversation, just finish that conversation about recycling. Trevor has actually been on the field, implemented these programs out in the field, so wanted to give a better idea of what exactly is involved out there, what we're talking about, why we made the recommendations that we did, and then we'll answer all your questions that you may have. Thanks, William.
Good evening.
Good evening.
We're back again.
Welcome.
Thank you. I tried to figure out a pithy way to summarize this up, and I'm going to try, and hopefully you don't frown. Contracts are best if they're precise, and state legislation, when it gets passed, is best when it's fuzzy, so that it gets passed. And what we're trying to do right here, and I think we've done it successfully, is give you precise contract language and options for you to do what may or may not happen out of the regulations that come out of the legislation that is fuzzy as to the timing of when all of it's going to happen. So that's the context, and as we worked in the couple of months before we came before you, that was what we were looking at, is making the contract have lots of options lots of trigger points that would always go back to you, the council, to decide if it was time to put a program in place. And you have terms and language in the contract that protects you from cost, getting waylaid by programs that then are going to cost a lot, and you did not get a cost for them in a competitive process, which is what this RFP is. So that was sort of the overall, how did we put this together? How did the ball of wax come together? The question that you and several of you had asked was, do we really need 2 recycling coordinators? And what we've done tonight is put together a presentation that goes through and gives you, it's not so much of a sales job as it is a data. We'll give you the data, you can look at it, ask further questions on where did we get numbers if you have those questions, and then it's your decision what you want to do, of course. So with that, I'd like to bring up Trevor Blythe. Trevor's worked with us for 7 years. The reason we're having him do the presentation is he's actually the guy out on where the rubber meets the road, talking to the different folks as we put in programs. The reference points we're going to use are Orange County cities, Tustin and Mission Viejo. So it's similar demographics, similar geography, similar considerations that would happen in Lake Forest. And so we think it is a valid comparison of, if we're using the data we're giving you tonight, and it was generated in the surrounding cities, so it should be applicable to your city. And with that, I'll turn over to Trevor. And as he said, Tom had said, there is one slide in here that has got too much information. It's illegible up here, and we'll slide it back to you to look at what you've got in front of you. And believe it or not, we really did try to make it less information, and I think we failed, but oh well. Trevor?
So you actually saved trees this time?
Yes. We did electronically.
Yeah, I brought last meetings with us.
It's a great workout.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. As William and Tom mentioned, I'm Trevor Blythe. I work as a consultant with Economics. I've worked with a lot of cities in the nearby area to implement hundreds of cost-saving recycling programs, and so that's why Tom had asked me to speak. So I'm going to take about 10 to 15 minutes of your time this evening to kind of go through some data that we have collected over the years supporting the need for a couple of recycling coordinators in the city of Lake Forest. Next slide, please. Does this laser pointer work? Not really. All right. Here's a quick overview of the presentation this evening. We're going to look at some of the regulatory drivers quickly, and then that are driving the need for 2 recycling coordinators, and then we'll move on to some of our experience of how effective multiple recycling coordinators are in the field. Next slide, please. As Council knows, AB 341 passed in the fall of 2011 and requires all businesses that generate more than 4 cubic yards of trash to subscribe to recycling. And this had to happen before July 1st, 2012. So as you can see here, we have a pie chart showing the commercial accounts in the city of Lake Forest. And the red portion represents the commercial accounts that are currently not recycling. And this is as of December 2012, and it's about 2/3 of the businesses. The green portion represents the commercial accounts that currently subscribe to recycling and are in compliance with AB 341. So to summarize, there's 276 accounts in the city that are recycling out of 804 accounts. So ideally, in order to be in compliance with AB 341, that entire pie would be green. And to get that pie green, we need to get a lot of programs out, hundreds of programs, and that takes a lot of work. Next slide, please. AB 341, as you very well know, also sets a statewide policy goal of 75% recycling statewide by 2020. It's not a mandate at this point, it's a policy goal, but we foresee in the future they might add some teeth to that policy goal. So we've included here some different scenarios of the commercial sector. The first bar on the left shows that in 2012, 30,000 tons of materials generated from the commercial sector were sent to the landfill. And that little green portion of that bar is 2,000 tons of recycling that was sent to recycling facilities. So that represents a 6.5% recycling rate in the commercial sector. In order to be right around where we want to be with AB 939, which requires a 50% diversion rate, we'd have to increase our diversion levels in the commercial sector to that middle bar there. and that would represent an 8-fold increase in the current recycling levels. If we want to get up to 75%, if that does have to happen, that represents a 12-fold increase in current recycling programs in the commercial sector, which is the bar on the far right. So next slide, please. So to recap, right now we're at 6.5% of what the hauler touches in the commercial sector. To get to 50%, which the contract requires by the year 2020, we need 8 times the commercial recycling that's going on now. And then to get to 75%, we need 12 times the current commercial recycling rate. So, of course, this is going to take a lot of boots on the ground, a lot of recycling coordinators pounding pavement, working with the business community to get recycling bins in place. So now we're kind of going to switch gears here and look at some of the experiences we've had in the city of Tustin, where we've had multiple recycling coordinators on the job out in the community implementing recycling bins. So this graph here shows on the vertical axis the number of recycling bins in the community, and the dates along the bottom represent time. So that blue line represents points in time where there basically represents the number of recycling bins over time. So that the portion between the two orange lines represents a period when the hauler allocated 3 recycling coordinators to the city, and during that time we were able to implement 10 recycling programs per month pretty consistently. Next button, please. Between the orange line and the green line, the hauler pulled back to 1 recycling coordinator, which is what is contractually required, so it was fine. But we found that the recycling implementation rate pretty much flatlined, and the recycling coordinator was able to just kind of keep the status quo and not implement a lot of new recycling programs. And then finally, if you do the next one. So in 2012, the city asked Economics to help out the recycling coordinator with implementing recycling programs in the commercial sector, and you can see a marked increase in the number of bins implemented, and it went up to about 6 bins per month. So this graph kind of demonstrates how having more people out in the field really gets results in terms of program implementation. So this is the part where you can't read anything on the screen, and I'm asking you to look at your council packet, if you would, please. So there's a lot of mystery around what exactly a recycling coordinator is doing out in the field, and I don't think there's an appreciation about the amount of work that needs to happen. As someone that's out there all the time, I have a pretty in-depth knowledge of what goes on. So we've developed this 13-step process that kind of highlights how a recycling program is implemented. And you'll notice that along the columns headings here, we have 3 different generator types. There's businesses, restaurants, which is essentially food waste composting programs, where the food scraps generated by the restaurant goers and the kitchen are put into a separate bin and used for compost. And then the last one on the far right is multifamily, which is essentially apartment complexes and HOA buildings. So quickly I'll go through these steps and kind of highlight what exactly they entail. The first step, of course, is making contact with the decision maker, and that's often more difficult than it seems. You need to, if it's a corporation, there's several different layers you need to go through to actually get a hold of somebody that can authorize you to even look at their their trash program. Step 2 is essentially where the recycling coordinator goes out into the field and does a site audit to kind of assess the feasibility of recycling at the property. And this is where they do a little bit of dumpster diving to determine what percentage of trash is actually recyclable. Step 3, they basically go back to the office, they take that information back to the office, and put together a recycling proposal. And the main thrust of this recycling proposal is to save the business money. I'd like to emphasize the fact that every recycling program that I've put together, every proposal that I've put together, and I've done hundreds of them, always save the business money. There's a huge opportunity to save money through recycling. And the way that the rates are set up in the RFP, that opportunity will continue to be available to the business community. Moving through the steps, the next step is basically to get in front of the decision maker, contact the decision maker, and then pitch the program. And this might be in front of an HOA board to get them to buy in on the cost-saving properties and the other benefits of the recycling program. You might be in a boardroom at a management office in Irvine, but it's really important to kind of sell the program. So once you get the green light, which is essentially step 7, there's a lot of things that have to happen before the bin actually gets implemented. So steps 8 through 10 represent the steps that have to happen before the bin's even delivered. So this includes outreach to all the residents. If you're working in the multifamily community, I've worked with properties with 600 plus units and had to go door to door, knocking on all the doors educating the residents, engaging them about what can be recycled, where you can recycle it, why should I bother them about this, and so forth. So this is a very labor-intensive process, but completely necessary. We find that face time really goes a long ways. And then steps 11 through 13 are really kind of the follow-up. After the bin gets implemented, then you start looking at follow-up steps. And this is where you're actually out there following up and doing site visits to make sure that the bin's not overflowing, that the residents and the business are using the bins correctly, and there's no cross-contamination. And the main idea is to build a line of communication between the hauling company and the business manager so they know that there's that option to call when they need help. So essentially what it comes down to, this bottom row here, is in order to perform all 13 of these tasks, you're looking at over 20 hours per business account to get a recycling program in place based on our experiences. For a restaurant, you're looking at over 30 hours because food waste programs are so complicated and somewhat difficult to implement. A good example of that is we worked with Lucille's in the city of Tustin, and they were initially hesitant to implement a recycling program because they thought there'd be an impact on labor costs, that there might be health vector violations. But working with the hauler and the city, we eventually got a food waste program implemented and a recycling program implemented at Lucille's, and we saved them about $20,000 in the last 4 years. And then the next item is multifamily, and it takes nearly 50 hours from our experiences to implement a recycling program at this type of generator. And the reason is there's a lot of different stakeholders, hundreds of tenants and residents. There's a lot of different languages being spoken. There's high turnover. So it's a very difficult segment of the business sector to implement recycling programs at. We've worked with the city of Mission Viejo to get 100% recycling at the multifamily complexes. It took 4 years, but we were able to get over 4,000 housing units access to recycling as a result. So it's possible, but it just takes a lot of work. Next slide, please. So if you'd follow along here in the next slide, this basically breaks it down for what's going on in the Lake Forest business community. We've identified 447 businesses that are not recycling, 200 restaurants, and about 60 multifamily. So a total of 707 businesses that are currently not recycling that we need to get in compliance with AB 341. If you look at the number of hours each of these different generator types takes to implement, we're looking at nearly over 19,000 work hours, which translates into 2,400 work days, or essentially 10 full-time equivalent work years. So if you divide that 10 full-time equivalent work years by 2 recycling coordinators, we estimate that it'll take 5 years of 2 recycling coordinators to get nearly every business to implement a recycling program. So with that, I am opening up for any questions you may have, and I thank you very much for your attention.
I guess I'll start off. You said we have of the possible 800 businesses that could be recycling. We have 247. Is that correct?
276, I believe.
276 accounts recycling out of 804.
Yes.
Well, considering that this AB 341 is really not mandated yet for them, you've got a lot of easy picking on businesses that will comply once that becomes mandated, and so that be low-lying fruit that'll be taken right off your numbers that you have here right away.
The mandate came into effect July 1st, 2012, so we're almost a year into it, and we're still not seeing 100% compliance in the commercial sector.
Is that maybe because the user, the hauler we have now, maybe hasn't made a big push into the community too?
They've made a push, but it's a lot of work to do, as I mentioned here, but that might have something to do with it.
Okay, and then one other question. As we get into compliance, obviously, you suggested at our last meeting that it would be two inspectors that would be out there trying to convince at $60,000 to $80,000 a year annually. Well, eventually we get to a saturation point to where we don't need to or don't need that. So, in my opinion, this added into our contract is gravy for the hauler because we have it in there for a 10-year contract. and we have 2 in there. So I just want to specify that, there's going to be a saturation point to where we're at 80% compliance, and we don't need 2 any longer. But the fact is, you've got it calculated in here as 10 years of this, and so I just like to say that okay, go ahead.
You're right, and that's where that section 4.12 that Councilman Herzog brought up. So, at that point, let's say we are at a happy point. This contract starts in 2014. It's 2019. All those businesses that we just kind of put up here with it's 5 years to get those programs out. At that point, 2019, decided to do a little math there for a sec, you can then invoke that contract section and say, we did it, we're done, we don't need 2 recycling coordinators according to section 4.12. We want you to pull back and only put 1 out there to maintain the programs, because you saw 1 coordinator maintains it. And then there's a section 1207 that that's referred to in that section 4.12 that says now so stop the program, 4.6, you have the authority to do that. Then how much of a cost reduction is that? We'll say $60,000. Then go to 1207 and use that section to reduce the rates. So it's all a little pathway through there. You got to the point you want it in 2019. The businesses are implementing. Life is good. You only need 1 coordinator to maintain it. You invoke the section in your contract, doink, and then you go and you lower the rates. Happy story, but
actually I feel better. Keith, did you get those numbers? 1207, 12. I'm just teasing. Thank you so much for clarifying that with me.
Sure. Any other questions on that one?
Peter.
Any questions? Do you want to kind of take care of that one right now, or wait till the end?
We take care of which one?
Well, I was just thinking, as outlined, you've set out. It looks like, probably a 5-year span, and it seems like maybe what we should add in the contract in that recycling coordinator section is that in 4 years, which would be 2018, that a report be provided on the public record to the council as far as the status of where you are. Or the whole program is, I should say, not you personally, where the program is, and if it looks like there needs to be an adjustment, and if 2 are still needed, about for how much longer, and sort of take inventory of where we are. And then doing it at 2014, or in 4 years, 2018, the reason I picked that number, because as far as what you outlined, it looked like it might take 5. We'll kind of know, and then there's always time to adjust contracts, and it doesn't go immediately. So it gives us a little leeway on the 5-year plan. So does that make enough sense, Mr. City Manager? Is that agreeable with council?
Yeah, that actually gives us a checkup of where they're at, and it gives us a progress report of where we're at. So anything, you feel comfortable with those words?
I guess I'm still kind of hung up on these 2, and as I look, I'm trying to understand. Are we pigeonholing the hauler by telling them this is what we want? So, like, if a hauler has 15 cities, they could presumably have 30 community representatives around Orange County that are all doing this. What if the hauler decided they just wanted to bring the waste back to their facility and deconsolidate it there? It might cost more money, I know, but, I mean, is that one solution? And what keeps us from, what keeps you from making a more broad recommendation that this might be one option and there might be others where they would divert it themselves and not push it on to the business? I mean, I'm guessing there's some financial model that makes this make sense, but I just want to get some clarification there.
Sure, there's a combination of factors. One is how you go approach the materials. There's a thing called a mixed MRF, dirty MRFing, where you just pick the stuff up and you drive it to a facility and you run it through the MRF, and you got 50, 60 people pulling stuff off the line. And what you do is you max out, and we have the data that it would have killed a lot more trees, but we have the data that can show that it's 48 to 52% is you're absolutely going to max out at that point. So if you take that approach, it's going to get stopped. The other thing is the source separation program. This approach with the bins is in the state regs. It's more of a approach that they want to see, not just a reliance on a dirty MRFing. They want to see and source separation going on at the same time. And then practical thing that just happened really 6 months ago. Almost all these materials, for better or for worse, they go to processing facilities overseas, and mostly in China. So the paper goes to mills where it gets made into cardboard boxes, where they put material in the cardboard boxes, ship them back to us, we buy it. And that's what's happening. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad, but I mean, that is the process. And it's been going on for a long time, a couple decades. So what does that mean is the contamination levels of the stuff that gets put in an export container is what the buyer is concerned about. Dirty MRFs have a more difficult time meeting those standards. Now, before that could have been an opinion, but if you're a recycling geek like myself, you know that China put up, quote, a green fence. They basically said what your shipping is about 30 to 40% garbage and about 50, 60, 70% at the best recycling, and we don't want to do it anymore, so they stopped accepting material. So by having your source separation program and you can do some MRFing, you've got your options open so that you can respond to the market. That's way more than you wanted to know, but that answers your question and what you're asking. Why are we looking for this optioned approach? And that's it. The other thing is the person at each one of the accounts, whether they want it to or not originally, suddenly they're more aware of what they're throwing away, and they're more aware of how much and where they can save. And that actually benefits the person that's throwing away the trash, because they're not literally throwing away money, because it was sort of off here and low down in their priority of what to do. They have their business to run. But if they can do something that saves a couple $100 a month, it's a good deal. That's a long, sort of across the spectrum answer.
Just to follow up with that, I mean, as someone who runs a business, and again, I mentioned I'm very familiar with the recycled paper, scrap metal, all those different industries, and exporting of containers and how that all works. But getting back to the businesses, I mean, saving a couple $100, they're also spending a lot of time, and they're spending employee time, like was mentioned with Lucille's. I mean, I'm sure it's great that they save $5,000 a year. Over 4 years, they save $20,000, but how much time and man hours went into that $5,000 that they saved? I mean, I understand there's going to be some education process, but I mean, I think beyond that, it almost has to be, look, if the state's requiring it, that's what you have to do. And so, I'm still trying to get my hands around that saturation issue as well. You get to a point where everybody should have a bin, and you're told, hey, it's state law that you have to have a bin. You can't get rid of it. And at that point, what's the recycling coordinator doing? Once the bin's in place and a process has been established, where does it go from there?
If you want, I can give you just one more example that may be helpful, or we can move on. I'll look for direction. Want me to give the example? Okay. We won't name names or cities or haulers, okay, because I don't want to get anybody in trouble. A city that we just, actually, Trevor and I, on the way to a meeting, we checked out a place that was supposed to have a recycling bin that was to have been put in. It was supposed to get emptied 5 times a week, which is a lot. And then there was a trash bin, so there's a recycling bin and a trash bin. The recycling bin was supposed to get emptied 5 times a week, and the idea was you took a lot of cardboard out of the trash bin that used to get emptied 2 trash bins. So you have a problem if this bin, the recycling bin, isn't getting picked up, and that's what happened. It didn't get on the pickup schedule, and that was the step that Trevor referred to, the follow-up, steps 10 through 13, to make sure it happens. The guy who runs a business in there came out and was ready to kill, understandably, because he couldn't put his stuff. It was just starting to overflow. That's what the recycling coordinator's there. We talked to him, told him we'll handle it, gave him Trevor's cell phone number, and now he's got a response, and it isn't just a faceless regulation that nobody's helping him get there. And then back to when we're done and the program's working, you're right. If it's all just working and running smoothly, yeah, you dial it back. And the dialing it back part is in the contract section of 4.12. It's not, I'm not going to say it's going to perfectly work smoothly, because you're right, it takes 3 months sometimes to do a contract issue, but you've got all the tools, the options, the wording, and the law on your side, and you're going to help your businesses, and then you're going to get out of their way when they're with it, when they're helpful. It's almost like a chamber. And it's the haulers' employees, and you have control over those costs.
Just my last comment. I mean, I'm not really as focused on the dollar amount. It's just the effectiveness.
Yes.
Is it going to work? I mean, I don't want to spend the money if it's not going to work. I don't want the residents spending the money or the business spending the money if it's not going to work. And that's more my concern, is that
You're just what we call one of our hard sells. And
Yeah. Maybe so.
If we had 2 days with you and we just then eventually go, okay.
I mean, as a small businessman, I think a lot of they're just going to say, what the heck? Why do I have to be doing this on top of everything else? I've got a stack of paper on my desk of things I really have to worry about. Now the state's making me do this.
And that's where the recycling coordinator does that stuff. So it just kind of, we go in and you say, you don't have to do anything, we'll do it. And at the end of it, 2-3 months from now, it'll work. And if it doesn't, call us, which you will, just like this guy.
Okay, well, thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, just real quick. I obviously the last meeting, we all, I think, expressed that same issue, and I mean, I'm still, I'm sort of warming up to this idea. But kind of what led me to this idea of putting in this contract provision for the review in 4 years was I made the mistake of going back and reading AB 341. And what I ran across was now the state, under the state law, has the jurisdiction to review what we're doing. And in the code section, it talks about that they're going to review it to see if we're making a good faith effort, which they claim to define as reasonable and feasible efforts. Now, this is the state deciding this, of course. And then they lay out, it talks about the extent of the business, how many businesses are complying, the extent to which the jurisdiction, the city, is educating and outreaching, and the extent to which the city is monitoring businesses and notifying businesses that they're out of compliance. And of course, if we're not doing that, who are they going to come after? It's the state. And this law gives them the authority to issue an order of compliance where they would tell us what we have to do, as opposed to having the flexibility in the contract. So you all know how much I love the state and the mandates. But, when you read that, then it was like, okay, I'm not really totally warmed up to this. I'm sure you're very good at what you do. But it's like, now we also have the necessity of, here's a state mandate that says every commercial facility has to recycle, and we're the ones responsible for making sure, even though we have a hauler. And then they're going to order us, and basically, quite frankly, it could almost overrule the contract as to what we're claiming we want to do. So it was like, okay, I think the coordinators would probably meet the good faith effort test. And if we do review it in 4 years, based upon the information we have, we can evaluate it with some real objective information. And if it needs to be changed at that time, great. If it doesn't, great. Or if it needs to be eliminated. So that's kind of the final straw for me was when I read those clauses. So that's why I made the suggestion I did as far as, putting in that section in the contract about the 4-year review.
Thank you. Ms. Mayor Pro Tem?
Thank you. This one did too? I did. The little light, I'm telling you. The little light, so forget it. Turn the thing on. I move a little bit. I tell you, we're not buying anything else till we get this stuff fixed over here. Forget it. So anything you request, take it off the CIP and anything else. So this is fixed, nothing. Okay. First of all, Councilmember Herzog, you had said a 4-year, and what you just read, it sounds like, unless I'm misinterpreting it, and you can correct me, it sounds like we need to consider I'm assuming that what you said on the 4 years is you're basically asking for an update to give us something. I would like to see that update more frequently, because I don't want to wait till we only have 1 year left to try to get it corrected. I don't feel that that would be wise. I believe that we should have, on many of our contracts, we have a yearly update. Some we have every 2 years. But if we need to be in compliance and we got 5 years, why are we not doing a more frequent update? And that's what, I don't want to wait to the last minute, and we got to scramble around and pressure. Then you got to bring on some more coordinators to try to get it finished and done within a timely fashion, that we get the greedy state off our backs. So for me, I would like to see a update more frequently than that. And do I need a consensus for that? We're cutting it too close with just 1 year left.
So, let's
hold on, he raised his hand, he wants to say something.
I'm going to break the rule that consultant never should break, which is don't jump in when things are rolling.
I was just going to ask you to.
Okay. In the contract, as part of the contract, you have meetings with the hauler.
Okay.
Annually, you have them give you a report and the contract. And then what that fits in with what Councilman Herzog had said is we take that information and in turn it goes into a report that goes to the state, and that goes into the log book basically of are we making a good faith effort. And if you report we're putting out 10 business accounts a month and we have 10 restaurants in this year, and then they go off, and you're automatically, when you're doing that with the state, you're automatically falling off their radar scope because they have other cities that may not be doing this type of reporting. Their contracts don't require it, and so they don't know. So you do have an annual touch-in to how it's going, and you'll probably see graphs.
That'll be coming back to us.
Yes, that comes back.
I'm happy.
I think I just told the city
Although
manager
I'm not
it's gonna
happy
report
with
on
the
some-
mandate, but I'm happy if we're going to be getting that report, so we'll know how we're standing with the state. Because when you have a state that's greedy for money and they think they have the right to keep pouring out mandates on us, I don't like to wait to the last minute on anything they have that we have to have done by them. And that gives us the opportunity to tweak it if we need to tweak it, and to drum it up or whatever. So I'm still not comfortable with these coordinators, but if it's something we need and it's going to help us to get into compliance, then I can live with it. But I do want to be all over it and knowing where we are. Like with our contracts, we have our staff to get back to us on it before the deadline. And that's what I'm interested in. So thank you.
Obviously, there's cities out there that have got their franchise agreement with the haulers already. What involvement are you having with current trash haulers in cities trying to coordinate this AB 341? Are you working with cities that actually already have a contract written to negotiate to bring in their quotas up?
The short answer is yes. There's 3 other cities in Orange County. There's a couple cities up in Northern California, and there's a jurisdiction out in the Palm Springs area that were pretty much discussing the same issues. Some of them are coming up to the contract, where like you are. Others are in the middle of it. 2 of them we wrote the contract in 2004 anticipating mechanisms that would occur right about now, which they are. Just like your contract has a lot of mechanisms that expects really everything to hit and kick into gear in 2017. The regs should be finalized by then. 2019 is right before when it's all supposed to happen, and you have another point in your contract that says let's check in, which is sort of what Mayor Pro Tem was asking about.
Now, of the 2 cities that we are in comparison with in this, Tustin and Mission Viejo, you said?
That's correct.
They have 2 inspector...
They have they have two different haulers. Each one of those cities has a different hauler. And we have been working with them, I think that's the right phraseology, to get enough coordinators and recycling folks out in the field to make it happen. And that's what a chart that you saw was like, okay.
So Mission Viejo has 2 coordinators and Tustin has 2 coordinators?
Tustin has a coordinator, and then they pulled us in to help them, so that became 2. Mission Viejo has, technically they have 1 coordinator, but that person was split between quite a few cities. And that's why your contract, your language is so specific, and it says, not kind of, sort of, maybe you'll give us a recycling coordinator, but you'll give us 2. We want them to have their qualifications, and we're not, it's sending a very clear signal to the hauling community that you need those 2, and then the contract change scope portion is sending a very clear signal that, and it's just not a free ride that you can just coast on this. And I think if you have that annual review process, you're going to be able to pull it back if you need to, or beat people if it needs to happen.
Anything further, Council? Thank you so much for once again joining us here in Lake Forest.
Well, that was just the one issue.
That's one.
Okay, go on.
And again, this would require some modification, but in the current contract, it's written that the city would be directing the haulers not to go to the landfill with the green waste, or the green waste for alternate daily cover. That's basically the whole focus of AB 323, which we just opposed. And we opposed it because we didn't want to have that compelled. The county who runs the landfills also has an opposed position on 325.
Yeah.
So it seems to me that it would be sort of inconsistent for us to, well, one, inconsistent in light of the fact we're opposing the bill, but number 2, there's also a situation where it impacts our diversion rate 14%, according to staff. So the questions I was asking was, it seems like we should be consistent in how we change the wording as such. And I noticed there's a thing, one of the suggestions here was direct the franchisee to continue to do the ADC, but it's obviously there already are the other provisions where things can be changed if need be. And then part of the way the contract's set up, or the RFP I should say, is set up that we would get the pricing aspects completed now. And I don't have any problem completing the pricing aspects, but I do want I do believe we need to change the contract to be consistent with the positions we've taken, and that, because there is no time where this has to be done currently. 323 did not make it out of the Assembly, at least according to Monday's report. So that means it'll probably come back next year. Well, of course, they can always get an amendment. Sorry. If they followed their rules, it wouldn't come back till next year, but that's another story. So that would be one correction I think we should make in the contract, and it might be in the RFP too, I don't remember, but throughout the documents. And I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on that either.
That definitely makes sense. I think that if it doesn't pass, at some point it's going to cause a problem for the combination food waste, green waste, because you're not going to be putting top cover of a combo, right? So there would be the potential for a fourth bid. So if there's a food waste, otherwise you're mixing it with recycled plastic and cardboard, which isn't going to happen, or you're just putting in your regular trip. So, for all intent and purposes, if that doesn't pass and the cover continues, there is the possibility of the fourth bin. So I just want to make that clear that, we're not saying it'll never happen, and then, it could happen. I think that we have to at least, leave that possibility open. I want everyone to understand that there is the possibility. Obviously, we'd do everything we could to make sure it didn't happen, because it would, probably create havoc on a lot of homeowners, and so. But.
And on my streets too.
Any other thoughts on that?
No other thoughts on that.
Okay, well, one other thing was, again, this one's sort of just a verbiage thing. I mean, obviously, AB 341 has the mandate that you have to do the commercial recycling. Okay, that's a clear mandate. The 75% is a goal, as was indicated. And so all I want to do is, in the current documents, sometimes it's described as a goal, sometimes it's described as mandatory. To me, that's a typo, not a big deal. But I think the document should be consistent, and it'd be consistent with the language of 341 that's a goal. Now, we're obviously setting up the contract to go after and achieve that goal, because, as Mr. Robinson just pointed out, the statutes will probably change somewhere along the line, particularly over a 10-year contract, and it may become a mandate. But as far as, what we're sending out now to the haulers, that's the state of the law. And of course, the contract also indicates they have to comply with whatever laws come up in the future. So we're kind of covered on that end of the fence too. But so it'd be my suggestion that language be consistent, that as far as the 75% diversion, not the commercial, the 75% diversion, it's a goal and not a mandate. Any questions?
No. So we got consensus for that.
And that's, I think, pretty much all I got. The other questions were pretty well answered.
Peter. Thank you so much. At this time, do we have anything from staff? Tom?
Mr. Members of the Council, I believe the staff has nothing else unless Mr. Wheeler does. We would assume that the Council, with the modifications as noted, that the Council would make a motion and direct staff to put the RFP out on the street and get this process going. So just that clarification.
Okay, that clarification. But I actually have a clarification too. I'm a hands-on type of guy, and on page 360, 1.1, it has a proposal for process of integrity. This will be the largest contract that I, as a city council person, ever get my hands to be involved in, and seeing that we have people out there that are actually experienced with putting together the paper stuff. I'd like to have the ability to go out and see the waste management recycling centers and the trucks that they are providing, whether it be any of the providers, Rainbow, which Athens, CR&R, Waste Management, any of those companies that will be Ware Disposal. These are all people that will be bidding in this. And I just want to say that I am a hands-on guy, so I'd like to see that we stricken that and make it to where we as city council members are allowed to go out and tour the facilities that they have and see their trucks and meet that with them. I'm not opposed. I'm available. My cell phone's on all my business cards, so I am contactable. So I just don't want to think that I'm closing the door on this contract. So I'd like to have that.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, it is a motion.
I second that motion.
I've thought a lot about this particular item, and did come to the conclusion that it was appropriate. I think as far as if felt there's some sort of need for a tour, I think that is something that can be set up through economics and actually done in a manner consistent with the no contact provision that's in the contract. That's very different than having conversations over time. We've set up a very detailed process with a very detailed contract to review the proposals that come in, and it's a process that would be very fair to all of the haulers. And you run into, particularly having been through 2 cycles of these, you run into situations where then you start getting all kinds of conflicting information. So I think it's best, the tour concept, I think that can be arranged without there being, any kind of outside information. Because that's the other thing. This is a contract that actually impacts every address we have in the city. And so the idea of the transparency and having all information that the council is going to use to make the decision readily apparent to the public and to the haulers I think is critically important. As I said, I think if we wanted to have something about a tour, we can go out and look. And I know economics knows the haulers, has worked with them over the years, and can provide, the kind of background on what goes on. We can keep that kind of a clean bid process and allow for an actual tour if you want to see a facility of that nature. So that'd be my suggestion on how we can kind of handle sort of the mayor's interest in having a tour without, sort of impinging upon the process that's been set up and has worked very effectively in the past.
I just don't. I'm available for contact, and so that's the way that I roll. If I'm going to go buy a car, I'm going to go kick the wheels of the car. So I still think that I would agree that we could have a tour, but like that, I would keep it. We have rules that come forth, and we keep forth a contact where if we went out, and I think that notification and verification, but I think that that's something that wouldn't be brought up, but the fact that for someone to call me, whether it be on my house or on my cell phone, I'm available. So I'm just saying that I think that that's kind of taking us out of the loop, and so I still like to have that stricken. So I guess I have a second, so I'll call the vote.
I'm over here at this point because I need to say something.
Well, you moved on me. I thought that was Adam.
You see I'm not right there? So I'm over here where we do have a working mic. Okay, y'all better get that fixed. Number one, I do not want any contact with anyone that's doing business with my city. I will follow the garbage trucks. I may even consider peeping in on you, as there's a man right there that knows that I will do that on any major contracts and some of the smaller ones. But as far as chit-chatting with me or telling me your point, I don't want to hear it. Put it in writing, give it to my staff, come up here to this mic and ask me or tell me then. Because you'll never be able to say that I agreed to anything before I'm up here on the final date voting. So do not contact me. Do not solicit me. Do not write me personally. Go through staff or go through that mic that's sitting down there. That's for my protection. That's not for you, because I don't want anybody saying that I said or did something that I didn't. That's for me. Y'all can do whatever you please with him, but I'm letting you know publicly. Do not contact me. Do not lobby me. Do not try to phone me. And if you call me at home, you will get a message. Is there a waste management person here? David, do you remember what my message say? Do not contact me. Contact city. Put it in your report. And that's what I say. Don't call me on my cell phone either, because I got a message there that I don't give you permission to call me on that. Hang up now and do not call me back. Everybody knows that. So I'm not going to put myself in that position, because I don't want anyone to have the impression that I'm compromised. That's just my rule. It's been like that since I came aboard. It works for me. But there is nobody that was on the council when this contract that we have now was more thorough than me and did more checking than I did. And I will be thorough, and I will check, but I will not have contact with anybody that applies for this contract. But I will check on you. I am very thorough. I'll even check outside the state if you have a place outside the state. Don't contact me. Thank you.
And I respect Miss Catherine McCullough, Mayor Pro Tem, but especially don't show up at her house, because she does carry a stick.
No, I carry a gun there, honey.
But Council?
This as has been mentioned, this is going to end up being probably the biggest contract that we end up dealing with, and so I can respect everyone else's opinion. I have no clue of how many people will end up bidding on this, but I know that I don't have the time to spend hours with each one of those that might. I'm not going to have the ability to do that. If some prefer to do that, it's okay by me. What I would need, though, or what I would request is that rather than getting to a final recommendation stage, that maybe we had a top 3 where they would be given the opportunity to come to the mic, like Mayor Pro Tem McCullough is talking about, and maybe give us a 10 to 15 minute presentation or something like that, so that we could hear from at least those top 3, and then I'm not just getting the staff report, which I definitely appreciate and comb through every single one we get, but it also gives the haulers that opportunity to talk to us in a way that might not show up in the staff report, and it would be something very short and brief. But that way I'd get to hear from the top 3, and if there ends up being 10, we give them all 15 minutes, we might have a meeting well past our 10:30 deadline. But that would be one thing that I would request. So,
could we add that into that, City Manager? Could we have a workshop with them, or is that something that's feasible?
Well, I think it's really council's discretion relative to that. What I thought I heard was get the top 3. The staff would have already ranked them. I guess we wouldn't share with the council or the public what the ranking is, but you'd know they're in the top 3, I suppose. But who's 1, who's 2, and who's 3, I guess we would withhold at that juncture based on what I heard Councilmember Robinson say. If council desires to do that, we could. I'm not entirely certain that it would modify staff recommendation, but at least you'd have the opportunity to talk with the 3 of them, and that could be arranged if that's the council's desire.
All right, but I'd still like to move forward and allow the access if that's possible. I just don't like to close any door. So I've called a vote.
Mr. Mayor, I second that motion, so I guess we're ready for a vote.
I'm not comfortable with voting now because I'm not comfortable with the top 3. Last time we had 7 haulers. It may be more or less.
We're voting on that yet. We'll come back.
Well, he's asking you to put it in there. That's what he asked. Could that be done? That's a part of what you're voting.
Yeah. So you want to make that amendment?
I'd like to make the amendment that each one, I don't care if it's 20 of them, I feel each person should have the opportunity to say, if you're going to give it to 1, let's do it across the board. Let's not pick out 3. That's fine. Across the board.
All right. And then we're going to add that to that, Bob. All right. All in favor?
Well, can somebody clarify what the motion is? Because I'm not sure. I've heard a lot of comments. As far as who's on first.
Basically, from the date the City Council authorized the issue of the request proposal, May 21st, 2013, until the City Council rewards a franchise agreement, all contact between proposers and the city shall be through the city's RFP coordinator. Contact information is contained above. Any attempt to contact or contact made by any other person, including an elected, an appointed official of the city, is grounds for disqualification of the proposer for the process. And I like that. I just don't like that. And that's what I'm asking for. And then Ms. Mayor Pro Tem would like to have all welcome proposers to be available.
My suggestion.
Okay. That's Councilman Robinson's amendment to that was to allow a workshop for all, or for 3, but now accepting that any qualified proposer to come and be asked the questions and clarify.
Did you say a workshop or just?
It
would have to be a workshop.
It would have to be a workshop.
Well,
yeah.
work it then.
And I believe, and I'll defer to Councilmember Robinson, it wasn't everybody who submits. It's the top 3 ranked by the consultant. That's what we're talking about.
I amended his amendment.
So now you want to have a presentation by all of those who apply?
Yes.
Okay, I guess I missed that.
Yeah, I know you missed me because you don't have a mic for me. I know y'all will never live down not having a mic for me.
20 workshops?
No. One workshop where each person can come and state their little thing. I don't like the idea of the top three being singled out, and no, that makes the choice kind of, the water's muddy. All of them be up there, and we don't need to know who's top and who's not. That's across the board. That's a level playing field, not apples and oranges.
Are you comfortable with that then?
Yes.
Councilman, I call for the vote. Roll call.
I second that, and aye.
Councilmember Herzog?
No.
Councilmember Nick?
Yes.
Councilmember Robinson? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem McCullough?
Yes.
Mayor Voights?
Yes. Matt. That brings us to item number 11. Oh, yeah. We need to take a 5-minute break. We're taking a 5-minute break. Thank you so much for your patience. I know.
Well, I think they did that to try and...
Well, I think that might be.
Think it's loose?
They tested these right before the meeting.
You want to switch microphones? Huh? Do it now. On mine or something?
Are you serious?
It works. It's low on battery now. It says low battery.
Stephanie sometimes has battery. I'll flip the switch and then you turn it on.
No? There's not much in them.
I don't know.
Get ready.
Works.
Thank you, thank you.
I'd like to reconvene this meeting. Thank you for your patience. Item number
Item number 11, request for proposals for legislative and grant consulting services submitted by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, the staff outlined the approach to this RFP in our staff report. We have nothing further to add at this juncture, but clearly we're available for any questions council may have.
Oh, is there anybody from the public that would like to speak on this item?
Marcia Rudolph, followed by Jim Gardner.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Very interesting. As far as this is concerned, just want a little piece of history. When we first became a city, we kind of we're sort of fat, dumb, and happy. We did the best we could. We didn't hire any consultant to help us. We figured we had a city manager and we had staff and that would work. And then we had this little problem called the reuse of the old Tower Marine Corps station. And it didn't take us long to figure out that we, though we loved our staff and the staff was doing an excellent job, we needed more help than that, and we needed full-time people in Sacramento and in Washington who would be prepared to pitch our position on the issues surrounding reuse. I would like to fast forward to today and just recommend to you guys that you go through the RFP process, pick a good consultant, but do not think you can save money by not having a consultant, even though we know that we have expertise of members of the council. What the consultants do in Sacramento particularly is they are 100% dedicated to what they're being paid for, and they're not split, and they're not running from pillar to post. They do a very good job, and I would suggest that the city make sure that it does follow through with the RFP and hire the best person possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jim Gardner.
Good evening again, Mayor and council members and staff. My name is Jim Gardner. I live in Lake Forest. Just about every meeting I come up and I harangue about the KPIs, about looking not just at process but at outcome. Sometimes all you have is process, but outcome is vital. It's important in the staff reports, and if they don't give it to you, it's important for you council members to insist on it, is outcome measures. We talk about responsible fiscal management. We talk about being business savvy. Well, let's be responsible spending our money here and business savvy. I'm talking now about expanding the lobbying effort, not the grant. The grant thing seems like a win-win situation for everybody. But talking about expanding the lobbying, it would be nice to know how often do bills pass, when we support them, when we oppose them, when we do nothing. Is this rate any different now than it was before? Have these trains, is it any different from the base rate? Are we any different from any other cities? Can we identify, using critical incident techniques, any times when our support was crucial? That's the kind of information you'd like to have in front of you before you make a decision. Otherwise, you're just spending more money on something where you don't know what the return is. But in this case, the returns are measurable. Just like it's measurable when we talked about the Chamber of Commerce, just like it's measurable when we talked about Neighborhood Watch, et cetera, et cetera. So there's a whole bunch of empirical data out there which you could have access to, which would help you making your decisions before you spend more money. I understand you don't have it before you now, but going forward, I would like you to insist on having that kinds of data before you, so you can make more informed decisions, so you can spend our money more wisely. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any further?
We've had no further requests.
Okay.
My only comment, I mean, the RFP will go out, and we'll be getting something back. There were two alternative grant procurement options listed on page 312. An online grant resources and companies specializing, basically to keep track of what might be out there. It seems like those would be two good things to add into the grant program. We have staff currently working on it. It seems like these would be beneficial to staff. So my thought was these would be beneficial to proceed with. I don't know what everybody else's thoughts were. But
What, on 312?
yeah,
Okay.
it's right there in the staff report.
I could support that. Sounds like it's in addition to, right? And yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's, you know, if staff's going to be looking at grant possibilities, then they should have all of the available resources. You know, within reason. This seems very reasonable from a cost perspective, so I can support Councilman Herzog.
Yeah, I think that I'm in consensus with that. So I have no problem adding that.
We need a motion.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we accept with the added on page 312, grant writing and legislative RFP to go out.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Agenda item 12, five-year plan review, submitted by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, member of the City Council, this is what staff deems as the draft five-year plan, with the thought that you would give us final direction this evening as it relates to a few of the items that we identified, in order that we could come back to your next meeting with what we would deem to be the final draft for adoption. That would be at your second meeting of June. There were a couple of items that were identified at your last opportunity to review this document that the staff has identified. They're on page 358 of your agenda item here this evening. We have made modifications based on input to date. I won't repeat everything that we've said in the staff report. You've read it. But from staff's perspective, we believe this document captures that which the council has been providing as direction through this process, starting all the way back from the first workshop, but also understanding that the document itself, one of the foundations of it, starts with the survey that we do of our community. And so all of those issues have been factored into this. Mr. Mayor, the three items, just quick for the purpose of the audience, the first had to do with adding the potential for an arena soccer facility at the Whispering Hills Park site. For those of you who are not familiar, that is the city-owned park site that is on Lake Forest Drive. Call it just west of Dimension. There's the drive-in Starbucks. It's right next door. That's a site that the city owns. We did do, based on the design that I think was shared with the council previously, we did a real rough order of magnitude cost for that and have included that information for you. Of course, the numbers could be a lot lower. Depends on what you ultimately design. but we're giving you really what we would deem to be a very rough order of magnitude, plus what operational costs and maintenance costs might be. We'd be looking as to whether or not the council desires to place that into your 5-year plan, and if so, where. Clearly, it will take a time in order to totally vet what the facility might look like, get it designed, get working plans and specifications, and put those out and bid it, construct it. So it's a multi-year process. And just if the council desires to do it, when do you want to start that process? And of course, you would be adopting at your next meeting a 2-year CIP. That CIP currently is one that you have previously looked at. It is having, based on the projects in there today, the remaining balance would be about $521,000. However, your 5-year plan has a much broader horizon, and you may want to consider where it is you'd want to put that facility, the new one that you'd be adding, if in fact you desire to do that. And of course, the costs are always an issue for the council. I know you're all aware of that. I've said it, you've all said it, so we're all aware of that issue. Councilmember Herzog had requested that we conduct some additional traffic counts as it might relate to the Portola Parkway gap closure. We estimate that costs about $10,000. Again, looking as to whether or not the council wants to place that into the budget for this next year and would go into your 5-year plan. And you had asked us potentially, well, not potentially, we are looking at potential locations and uses for an off-leash dog park and runs, and your Parks and Recreation Commission is fully involved in that process right now. We do not know when what that recommendation will look like or when it will be here, but we think it's probably likely post-adoption of your documents. We've included that into your plan, but it will require an adjustment in terms of actual budgetary figures at a future point. And of course, also with that one, I believe the other that does not have a direct dollar involved in it at this juncture is Village Pond Park. That's already part of your plan, however. So those are the 3 items that the staff is looking for council direction on, so that we can finalize your document and bring it back to you. So with that, Mr. Mayor, we'd be glad to respond to any other additional questions that council has, and we will be available to obviously provide additional information on the 3 that you've asked us to bring forward this evening.
Well, is there any from the public that would like to?
We've had no requests.
Okay. On these proposed capital improvement projects, obviously, first on the list is where are we in light of the staff and the Park and Recs Commission with the proposed dog parks, or the dog areas in the parks? Where are we? And don't we have to put a kind of a placeholder of a cost, some kind of cost in there as a placeholder? I mean, whether it be $20,000, $30,000, don't we have to put some kind of placeholder in, don't we?
Mr. Mayor, it certainly would make good sense to have a placeholder number in there, and of course it ranges widely based on the type of facility and the number of the facilities. If we're talking about what's been, I guess, characterized as a dog run, if depending on what that entails, if it's simply fencing of some nature and the size, and the numbers for that are probably not really significant. If we're talking about actually building a large facility, those costs are significant, and particularly if you have to acquire land. I know that the Parks and Recreation Commission had already said, don't look at any site that the city doesn't currently own, so you take the land costs out. But they have advanced quite some distance, I think, in their evaluation and discussions, and it appears as if a very large dog park facility is not one that looks like it'll rise to candidacy at this juncture. They're probably more focused on 2 or 3 dog runs. I don't know what the number is. Hard to estimate it. We could put a number in at council's direction, given what you think would be comfortable.
But a dog run to me is a 10-foot or 15-foot by 30-foot dog run. We're certainly talking more than a 15 by 30. Or am I getting too specific right now?
Well, I think it, and maybe I'd defer to Mr. McGill to a certain degree, but they gave Mayor Pro Tem McCullough his microphone. But hold on just a minute, Gary. Yeah, you contributed well. I think to a certain degree, and I'll let him talk about the experience with the commission, it might depend on how you'd fit it into an existing park, and that might be a dynamic issue. If you chose one park, it might require a lot more than if you chose another one. But that said, Gary, have you had a conversation with the commission about what some of those parameters might be?
Well, right now we're still looking at different locations, so we've asked them to go out over this last month, bring back their recommendations. We narrowed it down to 8 or 9 parks. We've asked them to rate those, and we'll bring those back to us at the June meeting. Then we're going to notify the neighbors that live near these parks, tell them what our intentions are, bring that back in July, and then we'll make a recommendation to City Council. As far as the size and the cost goes, we haven't gotten that far. We have to, once we've decided on some locations, we'll have a better idea.
Now, in the design of Village Pond Park, that's being redesigned, and I think that the Beach and Tennis Club actually owns a piece of property within that park zone. Is that anything that we could throw out an idea, maybe integrate with the park and integrate with a dog area for? Has that proposal been brought up? That's not land that I believe is in the survey the staff has done, because it's not a city. The portion I think you're talking about is not a city facility. It actually is adjacent to Village Pond Park, and it's owned by the HOA, Lake Forest One. If they would be interested in using that as a dog run, you certainly could, I think, ask the commission to consider that, but it'd be really, I think, it would require some conversation, obviously, with Lake One as their land. Okay. All right.
Peter was first.
Oh, I didn't know if you were done talking about Village Pond and
No,
the dog park.
I'm done with that.
Oh, okay, because I was going to move on.
Well, you can move on because I think you have an agenda item.
Yeah, we've done the gap closures in the city. There's one that's not technically in the city, but it's obviously important to the city. And that's the Portola Parkway. It's the last gap closure that would impact Lake Forest. And as I mentioned in the last meeting, in my conversations with the county, the reason they haven't been moving forward so far is they're saying they're not aware of enough of a trip count to, when actually this was several years ago, to justify moving forward with the project. And so now with the Great Park coming along, possibly that going from 5 to 9,000, obviously all the development the Irvine Company is doing right along there, the 241 right along there, it goes right up to that Portola Parkway, and then of course the 4,100 units that we're bringing along the line. I think those, anyways, there's a potential. I guess I'm hoping in a way that those numbers might be a little different so that maybe we can move that. And so this would just be taking a quick preliminary view to see if we kind of can get to that threshold where we can get the county's attention. And at least the rough estimate, I don't think would be, the 10,000 would be that problematic. Because obviously the sooner we can get it started, the sooner it gets done. Unfortunately, road projects take 5 to 10 years, and each year we wait just means it's long. So I'd like to add that into next year's budget if possible.
Yeah. You have my consensus on that, and okay, I think we got consensus on that. And any of us that hop on the 5 freeway, whether it be Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, heading either way on the freeway, we actually need that connecting corridor to the east of our city that would take us north, because the 5 freeway is getting to be ridiculous, and so that would be a good use of our money. Now, to what many people came to speak on tonight was something that I brought forth, and is actually AYSO's idea, was that we look into the Whispering Hills property and just get maybe a rough draft of what we could possibly do and get an estimate on that. I actually, coming from the construction industry, I've actually called 3 construction companies, and they don't see that over, maybe one company said not over $2 million, and the other one was saying that it was anywhere between 1.8 and 2.2, but it's something I'd like to just get out there and not put it in the budget, but I'd like to get at least the idea of getting an estimate on that. Yes, sir.
So basically what you're asking for is just to have some more information collected.
Yeah, just to clarify the cost.
So as far as we're not putting it in any plans anywhere at this point, just kind of continue to...
Just put it in the 5-year to where we do not have it in the 1 year or 2 year, but just have it in the future ideas for the city.
Okay, so then put it in the 5-year plan without any dates on it?
Yeah, without dates on it. And the fact is, whether you put a placeholder of $2 million or $150,000, I just put a placeholder there, but it's not funded right now.
Well, that's kind of what I wanted to just check on, because, we do have in there very clearly the dog run / park, whichever it turns out to be, and Village Pond Park, which is going to be expensive.
Yes.
And, we have gone through and systematically renovated the parks in town. And of course, now we're in the contract started now on building a $38 million plus sports park. So the parks aspects has been pretty well, or we've been working clearly on that for some years and put in, over $40 million into it. So I think we need to flush out solid cost estimates, particularly on Village Pond and the dog thing, before we get into putting any dates or dollars into this particular one, just for priority purposes. I mean, really, we all have a long wish list, but there's only so much things we can do because we don't have so much money. And that's just one of the realities we're going to have to face. So that's why I was just checking. So, I mean, if you want to get more information, I don't have any problem with that.
Yeah, I would like to nail that down and kind of get a more concrete estimate on that. So because it's something that I feel is an asset to the city, because the fact is the surrounding city would be the Gray Park, which my daughter plays at, the soccer fields that are going in there. Nobody has arena soccer, so it would be a destination for our city. And so I think any time that you can make your city a destination is a good thing. So I'd like to continue on with that process and keep it in the 5-year budget, but not put a time limit on it right now, or anything other than going out and getting having Planning Commission come, or the Park and Rec Commission come up with maybe a rough draft that they want to do, and let's get an estimate on the cost.
Okay, and Mr. Mayor, then I guess what we'd be talking about, if not in the 2-year CIP, we'd really undertake that process in year, I guess, 3 to look at some sort of conceptual plan. Is to get harder numbers, we need something a lot more real that you'd want to try and do, but clearly at this juncture we're not talking about putting numbers in, just getting a process going in year 3.
Getting the process going in year 3, but I think that we already have somewhat of a conceptual plan, and it's something that I think that the city planner that was here today, or my brother who's an actual architect out in Temecula, we can have them donate and bring forth ideas for the Planning Commission to look at. I have no problem with that, but I think that just leave it in and put it in year 3 would be fine.
Okay.
We have a lot on our plate. We have the Village Plan Park, which I feel that is a necessity. I think that the city is long overdue for something more than just a dog run. I would like to call it a dog area, maybe, but something that I can see that the dogs have room to run and play. But and so I think that as we go forward with those, I think that that's enough on our plate right now. But I'd like to put it in to have that as a goal for us one day.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. We're in order to get really hard numbers, I guess, the issue is that we will need to have some sort of vetting of a conceptual plan. If the council feels what you have today is something we could give the Parks and Recreation Commission. We obviously have a number of architects that we work with. We have several on contract now, but clearly starting in year 3 is when you'd want to be looking at that issue, is what I sense. It's either that or you put it in a deferred project list, which means it's not really advancing at all.
I think we put it in year 3, and that way it's on our future hopes.
Your radar screen. Yeah. Okay, and as it relates to the dog park in the dog area, Village Pond Park, staff's intent has been that those processes are a bit dynamic. We'll know a bit more, I think, as the commission winds up its work up as it relates to particularly the dog areas. And our suggestion is to amend the plan once you have those numbers and you can determine what you're going to do.
I think we're all in agreement that we want to go forward with that, so thank you. That we would be a consensus for that. I think, do we need consensus for that, City Manager?
Mr. Mayor, I believe we have consensus on all three of them at this juncture based on what I heard the discussion to be.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Scott.
Yes.
I think do I want to say something?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Yes. Next item.
Agenda item 13, consideration of implementation of electronic devices, iPads, for the delivery of the City Council and Commission agenda packets, submitted by Deputy City Manager, Director of Management Services.
Mr. Members of the Council, we have nothing to add to what Deborah Rose is telling me. We're actually looking for council direction relative to what has been a longstanding direction goal that Management Services Department has had. So we're just looking for direction from the council this evening as it relates to this particular item.
Public first. Madam Clerk, do we have anything for the public?
Marcia Rudolph.
Good evening. This is an issue that came before the council, I think, maybe close to 10 years ago, and it was kind of discussed and kicked around and sort of never materialized. The only question that I have, and I don't have all the detail in the staff report, is there an opt-out for individual commissioners or council members if they would prefer to have the paper agenda rather than the email agenda?
Mr. Mayor, I'll respond based on what I sense is the need for that. The staff's recommendation at this juncture actually is just simply to get the direction from council as to what your desire would be, and we didn't want to start writing the policy unless there was a real desire to move forward, in which case then we'd bring something back to you, and if the council's desire would be, as your policy would potentially, I think, outline, that there is an opt-in or out, discretionary based on each individual council member's desire, we'd put that in. And so it'd be really what the council eventually does. We'd come back to you with a proposed policy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Considering Councilman Adam Nick has actually brought this forth, would you like to have anything to say?
I would love to. Thank you. I believe going electronic will save a lot of money, thousands of dollars, it turns out. I read a number somewhere, $12,000 just in production cost. That is not accounting for staff's time in copying and so forth. $12,000. That's $1,000 a month. That's a lot of money just in production cost. Going digital, it brings essentially that production cost down to zero, essentially. However, out of respect and deference to those who may not be comfortable, I think we should not make it mandatory. I think we should just make it optional. If somebody wants to go digital, great. I already am. In fact, I have requested Madam Clerk to not produce me paper agenda and paper documents anymore. Respectfully, I have made that request. But if someone is more comfortable with paper for the time being, sure. I think in a few years, as the younger generation gets in, paper is going out, and I think, as a matter of time, in a few years from now, probably will be all digital and will be all comfortable with it. As far as the cost of as far as the technical aspect of it, whether iPad or whatnot, Mr. Danek, you would be the one, sir, who knows best. Whatever you say there, you have my support as far as technically what would be best. As far as cost, for the staff, I think the cost should be borne out of tax dollars. For council, perhaps council members should pick it up, but no matter council members pick up the cost or not, I personally will not want a dime in funds from the city. I will provide, as I have, I will continue to provide my own digital devices. So, again, whether council would be provided or not, I'll leave that to my colleagues. I, for one, will provide my own. I have nothing else to say, I guess. I just urge us to stop cutting trees and going digital. It's a good way to serve the earth and to cut costs down. Thank you.
Councilman.
If people are interested in using iPads, that's fine. I think they should be personally owned. The council and the commissions should not be provided iPads. Quite frankly, particularly for the council, quite frankly, I view our stipends as basically, covering expenses. The cost set forth by staff is $350 to $600. That's about 1 month of the stipend. And I think that also alleviates a lot of the other potential problems with the city provided iPad. So that would be my suggestion, to be personally owned. And then as far as the issue regarding the Brown Act and reading other items other than the agenda, under the current state law, we have to live under, the concept of transparency and the concept that the public has to have the same ability to see what the council is making decisions on requires, in my opinion, that the only thing that the iPad can be turned on to during a council meeting is the actual agenda. There can be no research, there can be no communication with others. It is strictly, what you do personally with your own iPad at home is different. But as far as when you're here on the dais or as a commissioner, it can only be on the agenda and nothing else. Because otherwise you're going to get, in my opinion, into major violations of the Brown Act, and certainly violating the whole concept of the public being provided with all the information that the council's provided. In fact, even with the written documents, if we get something within 72 hours, even within 24 hours, I believe, of the council meeting, that has to be made available to the public, so that they've gone further than they had in the past as far as making sure the public has available whatever the council is basing their decisions on. So those would be my two things. It's personally owned, and that we obviously have to comply with the state law and the Public Records Act and the Brown Act. And then, of course, as I mentioned, that the only thing that could be on the iPad here at the council meeting would be the agenda itself.
Yeah, it seems like it makes sense. I read something here, 225,000 pages a year is what gets printed. So it's an enormous amount of paper, obviously, and some expense, no question about it. I think they should be personally owned as well. I'm guessing that we have to have some sort of requirement, though, as to the type of device, I'm guessing, because if we have multiple devices out there, is it harder? Or that's what I'm just asking for clarification on. Is it going to be like just a website you're going to, a link or something? Or
Actually, a link is emailed out to any user who would like it, and they just click on the link, and it's a PDF document, and it can be opened on any tablet or computer, laptop, any electronic device.
Okay. Would this also give the public the opportunity to look at agenda items through links similar to, I know right now There's a copy provided at each one of the libraries, so they could have a link now as well, and they could have it with them. Is that correct?
Mr. Members of the Council, the agenda is already available through the city's website online. And so any individual could go online and you can actually pull up each staff report and look at it. What this does is provide the opportunity to download it to a device in a more convenient fashion. So it's available today. This might make it more convenient for those who might have an interest in that sort of issue. But yeah, clearly.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem?
I thank you for the report. It was very informative. And I do have a little bit of information I need. Number one, I see in your research that the iPad, you have one that goes up to 10 hours and can take all the graphs and everything. And that's something I was concerned about. But the thing I was more concerned about is the software that you could put in it that you could write notes. That's the only reason I don't have that, the iPad, because I couldn't write my notes. And I was glad to hear that. Now, for me, if you want me to do an iPad that's going to have nothing but city stuff on it and have excess to be checked, you're going to pay for it. Because I don't feel I should have to pay for something that I'm using exclusively for you. I sacrifice and I give a lot, and that little $200 and something when you get through taking the taxes out, it's supposed to be $6 something. When you get through 200 something 1 week, 2 weeks, and the next 3 something. Every dime of that I already put back in. As you know, I don't charge mileage. And I go to a whole bunch of stuff for y'all. I do that, stay up, all that. I generally buy 99% of all my paper. I do all my own stuff. I am not willing to spend one dime of my money to buy an iPad that I'm going to be using exclusively for you. I don't need it in my personal life. I will not use it in my personal life. I have 3 computers, well, 2 laptops, a small baby computer, and another computer in the box. I am not buying any more equipment to do this job. This is a voluntary job that we do here. And if you can't afford to get me an iPad to do something you want me to use just for you, when I already have went through cars just for you, I went through all types of things just for you. If I sent you a bill, you would not want to pay it. I'm not willing to do that. I'm really not. I think I have given great sacrifice before we were a city, during the cityhood, and since we've been a city. And I think that's just asking a little bit too much. Because number one, every one of my computers that I have in my home and all my telephones, my faxes, and all my other stuff, they can call all the transparency they want. They cannot touch it. I've bought it. I've paid for it. I even have a phone line in my home that I use just for city stuff. I'm not willing to give any more. I think that if you check the record of all the different councils that ever been here at all given times, I don't think it's many of them that has given more than I have given. Now, you can be very admirable, and that's y'all's choice. But I'm over here on giving, and I'm not willing to give anything else. There is no one that's ever sit in any of these seats. I think I sit in all of them but this one now. That has ever sit in these seats that has given as much as I have. And I'm not willing to give any more. Because that little bit that you give me sure don't cover what I do for this city. And if you can't get your own, you can't pay for your own iPad, you want to do it, I don't have nothing wrong with progress. I like progress. But this is one progress isn't going into my budget. So you want me to have an iPad, only use it for your little stuff, then you better get it out from somebody to pay for it. And since they're all so generous, they can all chip in and get mine because I ain't paying for it. Bottom line. I'm not against it, but I ain't paying for it. I can't take gifts either. That's a conflict of interest. That means the city's got to up it. I'm not paying for nothing else. My husband probably being divorced me, and I'm trying to get that big gift for my anniversary.
I think it's a great idea, and the amount of money that we're going to save, $12,000 per year, 225,000 pages annually we use here as staff, putting together our item agenda packages. And the man-hours, I heard, Madam Clerk, is this correct? Last week they were till 10 o'clock at night putting together our packages?
They do that a lot of times.
That's correct.
You see, the amount of man-hours and effort that goes into that, but Ms. Kathy, I'm with Kathy that if we're going to go to iPads, then I think that the city owns the iPad, but while you serve on city council, I think that Ms. Kathy or any of the council members that would deem that the city pay for that, I have no problem with that. But those that would want to pay for them themselves, obviously that's very generous. But I think that Ms. Kathy makes a good point.
All the money you save, you can surely afford it, honey.
So,
I think, as was mentioned earlier, there should just be an opt-in and opt-out. And, for me, the city shouldn't be buying iPads for commissioners or council members. If you want to buy your own, you're more than welcome to. If you don't, you can opt out and get the packet just like we currently do. And that's my take.
I second that motion.
Yeah. So can I clarify with staffing? Can those that, if Ms. Kathy doesn't want to buy an iPad, and can we continue to get our packages? I mean, Ms. Kathy can get her package from clerk's office.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that would be the case. And it's really a function of what the council approves as an eventual policy. I think you'd still want to have a policy as it relates to those who decide they want to buy their own and then use that, as it relates to some of the issues that even Councilmember Herzog pointed out. But an opt-in, opt-out is clearly the case. If you don't have it electronically, we need to give it to you in paper form.
Because I'm sure that we'll have enough purple folders or notebooks for us to continue on with that, right? I'm sure there's a surplus.
Let me make sure I understand this motion. This motion is that we got 3 people up here that want to pay for one. And so if you don't want to pay for it yourself, you just keep going with the paper. Even though you're going to be saving thousands of dollars and not counting staff time or paper time, okay? But if you don't want to pay for it yourself, then you just keep doing the paper, right? Is that the motion that I hear? Because if it is, that's kind of sickness.
No,
let's hear it again.
It absolutely isn't. The motion is that we adopt a policy that allows members of the council or commission to use private personal devices, okay, where they can access the agenda if they so choose. No one has to go out and buy anything. If they already own it, that's fine. If they choose to go out and buy it, they can. If they don't choose to go out and buy it, they can. It's adopting a policy that just makes it concrete that council members or commissioners can use a device during their meetings. Councilmember Nick's already doing it, as I understand.
Yes,
so
sir.
we're just adopting a policy and
Yes,
basically putting it in writing, saying that it's allowed, and following up on Councilman Herzog's comment that it explicitly is used only for the agenda and nothing else, so that we're fully complying with the Brown Act.
Well, I still don't hear where it says the ones that want the city to buy the iPod, that the city will buy them the iPod for them to use exclusively for the city. I don't hear that in that motion.
Well, if I can,
Oh, hold on, you weren't the maker of the motion.
there wasn't a motion made.
Well, then what was you seconding over here?
There was no motion made yet.
I liked what you said.
Oh, so you just second what you liked, okay? Oh, Lordy.
I'm new with
mercy.
this. I like what I said. I like to.
I'm going to forgive you this time.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
He just said it right. He was right on.
Then-
this is on.
Mayor,
Please.
let me, do I still have the floor?
You still have the floor.
Let me make a motion. Thank you. I'd like to make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation to go to all electronic, And for people that want to purchase the personal ones, they can. For people that want it purchased by the city, and either way, it has to be exclusively used here for city business. Is that what the intent of what your report was saying? Hold on, was that the intent of what you were saying?
Mr. Members of the Council, I believe the staff's recommendation was to get feedback to develop a policy to bring back to you. We did not have that level of detail in what we provided you at this juncture.
Then,
I think it's really a function of what the Council wants.
Then I will withdraw the motion if you need me to, and just ask for a motion to approve you to bring back more information. And make sure you have that wrote in there so we can choose that. Okay? Thank you. Do I have a second?
A second.
It's first and second. Let's vote. I'm tired.
All in favor?
Well, I'm not sure what more information they're going to bring back, but okay. We can continue this over.
You need more than
But I agree with Councilmember Nick and Robinson that it should be personally owned, because if you get into a city buying a computer, particularly an iPad, then you are going to get in some very detailed policies about its use. Because the one thing that cannot or should not happen is that the taxpayers should not be providing computers or iPads, whatever device we come up with, that people then use for personal use.
I think there was a vote called on that, so...
And so what my comment was with regards to, if you buy it your own, you can use it for whatever you want. The only limitation is when you're here on the dais, that the only thing that can be on the computer, the iPad, is the agenda. What you do with your personal equipment at home, like your computers or anything else, you can do. It's just when you're here up here, because of the state laws we have to live under, that you would not be allowed to do anything but have the agenda.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem?
That's not 100%. You left out a little bit. We have a law called conflict of interest, and I have been through that training 100 zillion times. And even if it's your personal item and you had anything pertaining to the city running through it, whether it's a fax machine or a phone or iPad or a computer, if you were doing any city business on there and there was a problem, they can take and subpoena it and check it. So they can check that. It's not that personal once you are an elected official. So that's in that little book, that big book that you gave us through the conflict of interest. There's our city clerk over there. Am I correct, city clerk or city attorney, whichever one? Does not that unfold in the conflict of interest? We have to, we have to turn our fax off. Can't use the city fax if you got one when we're running for election. Anything that you use, city information, I don't care whether you're planning commission or city council or anything, you have got to take and relinquish that if they want to check it. They all off into your business. That's transparency for you. I don't have a problem with it. It's your mess, then you can take it and do what you want with it.
Point of clarification. The question came to you guys.
Either one.
City information on personal electronic devices is discoverable.
That's what I'm telling you. All y'all do. Your business, too. They can take your little business and get all in there to get the business out of the city. I pay attention in those meetings. I love the law, and I don't want to step over it. So whether you buy it yourself, if you use it here or you have city stuff on it, they have access to it. So why should I take and do it? And I don't even like iPads. I will use it because it's a part of what I got to do. But I don't need one in my personal life. So if I had my personal one, I wouldn't do any city stuff on it because I don't want you off in my business.
If we're going to call this back, just to clarify,
Do whatever you want.
We have some cities: Aliso Viejo, Brea, Buena Park, Huntington Beach, Mission Viejo, Rancho Santa Margarita, and Tustin are all already integrated the iPads. Did city pay for their iPads?
Excuse me. I didn't hear you. Who paid for them?
I'm just pointing, because if we're going to bring this back anyways for more information, obviously there's a debate going on here, so you'll just add that into. Yes, okay. I make the motion that we bring this back then with more information.
What more are you looking for?
That's what they're asking for.
That's why I made the motion, because, Mayor, this was very thorough. I mean, you're talking about an iPad. How much more we got to bring back?
Huh?
So if you want to bring some more back, let them bring some more back. But I'm just wondering if staff have some more information they can give us. I'm open for it. I'll read it.
I just want to make a motion that we allow for the personal use of devices that people personally purchase, similar to how Councilman Nick is accessing it right now, and we make that a policy that it's allowed. So it seems like it's already happening.
I don't think we need a policy on it because we're voting on something that's already happening. So the fact is that if you want to buy one, I think you just call Madam Clerk and she'll email you the attachment.
Do we need a policy, or do we just? Would it be beneficial if we had a policy? How's that?
We don't believe a policy would be necessary per se if it's...
Sounds good.
All right. Okay, moving right along.
So what do we do?
They don't know. Why are you asking? All they got to do is make it more complicated. This is something very simple. And, we spent all this time just...
We've had a variety of
muddying up the
suggestions. I guess what the staff's looking for is, do you want this back or not? That's the first question.
They don't
If the answer is
know.
no, then we won't bring it back.
Well, we had 3 individuals comment that they felt that any iPad should be personally bought, so I will make a motion that the city not buy iPads for the council or the commission.
I second that motion.
Yeah. There's a motion. Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Mayor, just to clarify, if someone wants to opt out of getting a printed copy because they bought their own iPad, they just need to call the clerk,
Yeah.
and you don't need a policy for that.
Thanks for that clarification.
I'm not buying one, so you don't have to wait for that call, honey. I'm not spending another dime. Moving right along.
Item number...
Agenda item 14, legislative and regulatory matters, submitted by city manager.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is your regular legislative regulatory matters agenda item. Just one update as it relates to SB 7 that the staff did identify and recommend that the council oppose. That bill was passed out of the Senate to the Assembly. So that's the only update as it relates to the 2 items we've placed before you.
Which one did you say?
SB 7 was passed out of Senate to the Assembly.
741?
741.
SB 7.
7. Oh, yeah. It already passed? Oh.
Out of the Senate.
Out of the Senate, okay. And that means we're going to need to do some work.
Yes, sir.
Staff made 2 recommendations. One was a watch on 741 and an opposed on SB 7. I would move staff's recommendation and just want to highlight the reason on SB 7. We talked the other day about the state coming up with these lines and bills about, quote, statewide concern, and this is another one where they did it. Now, this time they took it to a new step because this particular bill is, they're saying that if a city does a certain thing that's outlined in the bill, then they will no longer receive state funding or financial assistance for construction projects. So now, not only they're claiming things to be statewide concern, but then they're going to use this financial hammer to supposedly force you into it anyway. And this is just a continual pattern that has got to stop in this state, or there really will be no local control at all, because then they'll start putting this purchase of a process into every single bill. This one in particular would go against transportation projects, which is just, unconscionable in my opinion. So anyway, I move staff recommendations on these 2 bills.
Second that.
Yes. I had a bill that I had asked for us to check on.
We'll take a vote on.
I
Well,
thought we just finished voting.
she wants to add something.
No, I didn't want to add anything.
Okay.
I asked last time about information on a bill.
Okay, we'll take this motion and move this motion forward. All in favor? Aye. Staff recommendation on that, so.
Okay.
What do you have now?
While we're still on legislation, there was a bill that I asked for Carlos to give us some feedback on, and I gave him some information on it, but I've got an urgent email on it that it's already passed out of the Senate. That is Bill. Did you give him that paper? Did Carlos get that paper? I have it here. I have a spare one here. It's Bill, Senate Bill 173, and this is a bill that affects senior citizens. If you remember the educational program for senior citizens, there was money put out for them to be able to go to our junior colleges. They now are trying to take it away. We have been flooding seniors all over, and interested parties that support senior issues, including AARP and others of that nature. Even some of the teachers and professors been emailing, faxing, and all. Because what it is it takes the money out where the seniors, they're tweaking it where the seniors cannot go when that money originally was put there for seniors. And the young people, they say the young people can't get into classes because there's so many seniors. These are classes that are geared for seniors, and the money was put there for seniors. They are not saying where the pot of money came from, but if you think back to when they first started these programs, it was senior money out of senior pot. Now, this bill wants to take the money out and have it where all the senior programs in all different colleges are closed down. I have spoke to some legislators on it, and I've been asking that if to give us our money and let us put these classes somewhere else. I really was looking for some more information on it tonight because from my email that I got today, it passed the Senate, but also the governor has said that he won't sign it. You'll never know what Rerun going to do. You know, he may or may not, but he has said that he would not pass it even if it passes. We don't know. So we do need to keep a close watch on this. As you know, seniors need not only the social contact, they need their minds stimulated also, which help prevent Alzheimer's, and you need to stay active. These are some of the things. And they're saying, one of the main reasons they're saying they are taking this money and closing down all the senior classes is because they say, well, the seniors aren't in the workforce. I don't know what seniors they're talking about. We have 3 mobile homes in this city that has seniors in it. And if you check, the husband or the wife is working some part-time job in some of the places trying to keep up with that high rent that is the space rent that's steady going up. Seniors all over are back in the workforce. You may see them in the back, or you may see them over to the side. They may not have key positions, but they are working, and if they've been out of the workforce, they need to go back and get that stimulation so they can get in there to try to help keep them afloat, because they are on fixed income. Their money don't go up when the economy go up or down. And so it's something that's going to hurt a lot of seniors, and we have a lot of seniors in our city. We need to really think about this strongly. And I'd like some more information on it, some feedback on it. I know it's still moving. They say the final blow is if the governor signs it or not. So he has said he's leaned toward he wouldn't, but I don't know. I will be up there next week? I'll be up there next week, and I'll be over there to the Capitol and every place I can find a legislator and see what I can do. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And any of you want to write and say don't take their money, that's okay too.
Madam Clerk.
Agenda item 15, request for appointment, League of California Cities, Association of California Cities, Orange County, and/or the City Selection Committee, submitted by City Clerk.
Are there any?
There have been no new notifications, sir.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. With that, City Manager report.
I have nothing further this evening, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Herzog.
I have nothing further.
Councilman Adam Nick.
Thank you. I'll try to be quick. Oh. If you can believe that. Adults must hold themselves accountable for their mistakes, for their failures, especially when no one else holds them accountable. Accordingly, I am holding myself accountable tonight. There is someone I need to extend an apology to, and I'm doing it in this very venue because it was in this very venue that I did something I shouldn't have. Last time, being an auditor, I don't believe in coincidences. There was this staff report, Village Pond. There was this rater that his or her rating was a little off chart. I commented that I sensed some favoritism. I don't take that back. That was my professional observation. However, I should have, I should have used the term anomaly, as the city manager, Mr. Dradken, used in describing this noticeable variance in the rating. I went one step further than calling it anomaly. I attributed that to favoritism. But if you think about it, anomaly, it simply means something peculiar, something strange, something abnormal. I went and took it one step further, and I attributed that to favoritism. Maybe I could have attributed that to favoritism and or incompetence, or I could have just said anomaly. Or better yet, hindsight is 20/20. Better yet, I shouldn't have said anything. And let me tell you why. I shouldn't have said anything because it really was not that important. I just saw that, my auditor instinct kicked in, and I said what was on my mind, which is what I do all the time. But usually I'm more careful what comes out of my mouth. The one person, and I don't apologize for characterizing it as I did. I said it as I saw it. I said it as I saw it. I said it politely, cordially. There was nothing wrong with what I said and how I said it. There was something wrong with the venue in which I said it. I should have reserved that comment, and I should have offered that comment in a private sitting with Mr. Dradken, as opposed to commenting about it publicly, especially given the fact that Mr. Dradken affords me all the time in this world. He is very, very accessible to me. I should have not said that in that very moment. I should have either discussed it previously with Mr. Dradken privately or after the fact. However, with Mr. Dradken and Mr. Dradken only, and privately is the key word. For that, the one person that I'm holding myself accountable, and the one person that I must apologize to, and the only one person I must apologize to, is Mr. Dradken, and I here do so. I had the opportunity, sir, to apologize to you yesterday. I didn't. Purposely, I didn't. Because when I make a mistake in this very venue, I must render an apology to set that mistake right, to set the record straight in this very venue. Making a mistake publicly and then apologizing privately, that's not kosher. So once again, I apologize, Mr. Dradken, for my poor timing. Secondly, I wanted to quickly address Mr. Gardner. Mr. Gardner, Dr. Gardner, you know how much I think of you. you know how much my wife and I both think of you, and how much regards we both have for you. I think the world of you. I think you're intellectual, extremely educated, extremely caring about this community, about this city, and I've known you for many, many years, and you have made me a better person, no doubt about it. I just want to quickly comment on something, and again, I'm commenting publicly because you have commented publicly about it, and I have not spoken with you on this privately, again, for the same reason. You have said it publicly. I am coming back addressing it publicly. To my count, over the last 2 months or so, you have, and I'm saying this with all due respect, God knows, you have, to my count, indicated that the council members have not had the courage to associate themselves with your comment as to Mr. Herzog's unfortunate incident last November, and as to when you came here before us and said that he should resign, and you said what you said. Number one, I apologize to you. That was an oversight on my part. I should have, that very evening, when the time came for me to have the podium, to have the microphone, I should have associated myself with your comments. I should have supported you with your standing, and I didn't. I failed. I apologize to you. For the last 2 months or so, it's been bugging me, and every time that I read that you're saying again that we have had inadequate, we have not been courageous enough, it bothers me, because in my case at least, it has not been lack of courage. In my case, it was an oversight on my part, and secondly, and just as much, I am very, very careful of what comes out of my mouth. For one thing, I don't want to get sued for defamation or for slander or libel by Mr. Herzog or by anybody. Secondly, being a public official, I have a duty to make sure that I don't speak out of school. So it came to my mind to associate myself with your comments that evening. I wasn't sure if I could. Again, I don't want to, because I'm a public official, if I was on that side, I would probably have a lot more autonomy. Once I'm on this side, I don't want my position to be used as a liability for the city. So I checked with a couple of attorneys, and I was told that I would be within my rights to associate myself with your comments, and I'm doing so. As far as Mr. Herzog, he has served the community for 20 years or so. We all make mistakes. I'm sure he's learned from it. Who am I to judge him? Let's move on. Mr. Herzog is a very hard man to dislike. He is extremely intelligent. I learn from him. I don't agree with him sometimes, but I surely learn from him. He has served the city. We all make mistakes, and this is not an excuse to defend him. I would be the last person defending him, but let's just move forward. And again, this is not lack of courage. This is just not much I can do. This does not rise to. I checked with a couple of attorneys, with a retired judge at the time. This does not rise to a level necessary to forcibly remove him from office. So, and he's serving the community to the best of his ability. Tonight, I saw him when I came in. I could tell he was tired. So, all in all, again, I associate myself with your comments, and I'll leave it at that. And I want to leave with a sweet note, believe it or not. Speaking of sweet note, you said, Madam Clerk, that I need to make a motion to have the Planning Commission and Parks and Recs to be provided with cookies and coffee. Can I make that motion and have them provide the same thing that we are? Will you support me on that?
You have to put it on the agenda.
Oh, okay, we have to put it on the agenda? Okay, can we put that on the agenda? So, great, thank you. I'm done, thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
I haven't said anything yet. I know you're wondering what's taking me so long. I'm trying to compose myself. Because I'm hoping if I ever do something wrong enough to go in the press, y'all don't keep washing my face with it. Because when I look out, I have to go back to my biblical days, whether you believe in God or not. Ye without sin, cast the first stone. And if I hear one more time of Mr. Hersaal's incident and situation, I think I'm going to scream, enough is enough. And I really, as a human being, as a woman of God, as a licensed ordained preacher, as an elected official, and 2 different commissioners, and sit on several different boards throughout this city and this county and the region and the state, have never been so sick of hearing the same thing. I went through the bail situation. They kept coming in our meetings, disrupting our meetings, talking about the bail situation. And I've seen a lot of other things, those 3 that went to prison over in Santa Ana. But enough is enough. I don't feel that I'm not a coward because I don't jump on the bandwagon of talking about somebody's personal hiccup, because I have hiccups of my own. And I hope that this is the last time that I have to hear of somebody else's fall, because I have fell a whole bunch of times in my life. And I hope none of y'all ever get weaned of my falls from when I was young, because, honey, if y'all going to keep talking about it, y'all going to get on my last nerve. This is council comment. Council comment is supposed to be about things pertaining to this city. And here it is. I have to do a AB 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what I'm here to do. Here's my AB 1, 2, 3. And don't even give me no red light because I'm going to finish it. Thank you. I attended the Orange County COG. I'm very grateful I had the opportunity to go because Councilmember Robertson was nice enough to be my alternate and fill in for me when I was filling in for the mayor with the TCA, which I went to 100 zillion millions feel like. And the Orange County COG is trying to fill the rest of their positions at the Southern California Associated Government. There are some empty seats, and none of the chairs that had chaired it before realized how many empty seats they have, so now they're trying to fill those along with some restructuring. I attended the Orange County Fire Authority. They are dealing with the ulcer, and we're taking care of things one at a time. The biggest thing that's pressuring them right now is everybody pull out of the Orange County Fire Authority. The whole system could be affected in a negative way. On a more pleasant note, I attended 2 memorial services, which, as you know, the memorial services for the men and women that we have lost keeping our country free. There was one at Mission Viejo, and they had the only remaining living Tuskegee Airmen at their event. And that was something that was a good tearjerker for you. And then here at our memorial, here at El Toro Memorial Cemetery, I also attended another TCA. And I attended That one, you don't need any information on, you ain't got enough. The OCTA special needs, I found out about a Bravo bus that they're starting there. It's going to only be a few miles at first, but it will start going more where it can be more direct routes, save emissions, and save time. They're hoping to shave about 15 minutes off of commute time. That doesn't sound like a lot, but when a bus is running and you think about it can get there 15 minutes faster by missing some stops, that's less carb going in the air for us to breathe, saving somebody's lungs, hopefully. We had a ribbon cutting at a new Mexican restaurant. I'm quite sure the mayor's going to want to expound on it some more. And a very, very, very nice family. And it was a nice ribbon cutting. And, of course, the Chambers was there. They always come if you asked. Also, I attended mental health. We're doing a lot of things in mental health, and one of the things is branching out. We have an officer that now works the night shift as well as day. We got some emergency things put in place, more getting the job done as far as when a family member has a person that is out of control. We can, instead of pulling so many policemen, mental health has responses that can respond, or the officer can call and get right in no matter what time, day or night, and get a response. So I was very happy to hear that. We had plenty of presentations on that. I want to remind you that Friday the 14th is Flag Day. Remember the flag, remember to fly a flag somewhere. And also, Sunday the 16th is Father Day. All you fathers, mothers, remember, if they treated you good or bad, either one, be nice to the fathers. They'll get it all the time, but that's their special day. Let them look at the football or go golfing or whatever, and give them a real nice meal. So happy Father's Day to all the fathers. Thank you.
That was a great ribbon cutting. I'm a huge fan of Mexican food, and was it Cucas? Cucas and Foothill Ranch. I got to recommend it to city staff. The finest Mexican food in Lake Forest, I would say. And I'm a connoisseur. I'm saying that because it was good to me. So you guys all got to go visit up there. But nothing further. You guys have a great Father's Day. Thank you.